Welcome to Project Further. I'm April Omer. Project Further is a resource for the families of girls in youth soccer who have a desire to play the beautiful game at the highest of levels. I'm joined in the studio today by my amazing producer, Lo Ballard. And today we're going to talk about all things social. Hey, Lo.
What's going on, Doc?
More of the same.
Hey, always. So we're back for another episode, and I'm really excited about this one because when it comes to social media, so many things in this landscape change every day. And we want to make sure that we are giving your take and some of my expertise on how to navigate the scope of social media. Now, I want to start with a question for you.
Okay.
Do you guys have social media? Let's start there.
Absolutely we do. I mean, sometimes I wish we didn't, but we do, just like most families, I think, in the U.S.
Yeah. Now, what is your initial stance on how you were okay with implementing social for your girls?
Okay. So with my girls, their access to social media developed gradually. I mean, I think with Evan, my oldest daughter, who is 16 now, she really wasn't allowed to get, the social media accounts like, TikTok and, Instagram and all that until probably about a year, 2 years ago, something like that. It was pretty late compared to most of her friends. And that was obviously for safety reasons and because, I think kids out here today just have a lot to navigate in terms of that social realm. So we wanted to make sure she had the maturity, the self-awareness. She was self-assured enough to make good decisions, relatively good decisions as far as teenagers go. But of course, we policed her, frequently and still do. With London, sort of the same. So London is 13. She's about to be 14 next week. And so she has limited access to social media accounts, but London is really all about soccer. Evan tends to be more of my social girl. She knows what's going on. She knows what's trending. She knows all those things. London is more about soccer. What's going on at soccer, what's going on with, that kind of thing. So she came and said, hey, can I have a social media account? And my initial, response was, no, you don't need it. Why do you need it? She's like, well, I want to post my videos. I want to do those things like that.
Yeah.
And so I said, okay, well, if I can have access to it and police it frequently, then you can have a little bit of that. So her access has been very limited, mostly to things like Instagram. Now, when it comes to my accounts, I have my practice, I have businesses. And so my husband and I have had social media accounts more for that reason.
Yeah.
Not really for social reasons or anything like that. So that was how we initially kind of approached having access to social media in our family. We stay really busy. I mean, we're not people who stay on devices a lot, but we wanted to obviously be connected with the world for various reasons and give our kids a little bit of limited access as well, because regardless of what you think about it, that's the world we live in, and they're at some point going to have to learn how to navigate that. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, I know for me and my experiences, I've had clients where they were underage and the parents, were them online. But even in those circumstances, sometimes, and I say this, experiences change how you speak. And sometimes the content wouldn't always come across as something a child would articulate.
Right.
And then you would have people saying, oh, this is not really their account. Like somebody's managing this. And it's like, one, yes, in all transparency, we monitor this account. And the reason I say, I would brief all of my clients about this is because, one, in today's age with social, there is a backup of everything that is posted, everything that is transcribed out. Even if you delete it somewhere on somebody's server, there is that information, right? But most importantly, those things come back to bite kids. I've seen where people have had much success later in life in their career, and then people go back to days where their immaturity was not where it is today. And those things that were said, those jokes that you thought were okay and you got away with, end up becoming things that hurt your brand deals or your draft pick.
Right.
I'll never forget, and there was a situation in the NFL where this kid was a high draft pick, right? And like the week of, like, they were hyping him up, he was doing all the press runs. Well, somebody went and found his old Twitter. And I think he dropped from like a first round pick to like low second or third.
Right.
Based on no team wanting to have a part of someone who would be a media nightmare. And I love that you guys do a great job of allowing the girls to still have their personality shown, but also keeping boundaries where everything you do, even as a parent, our goal is to protect you when you can't see opportunities that lie ahead.
Right.
Now, what I'm curious to ask you and to talk to you about is, how do you deal with when the girls may want to post things that you feel are not things we should be sharing?
Right. So, with our family, and of course, everybody's approach to parenting, their family dynamics are different. Our family, the way that we approach things with our girls is, it's always been important as parents for us to raise girls who can think and who can ask questions and who can challenge authority, even if it's in a respectful way, and who can have a dialogue with you, so they can understand. I grew up in the age where you were seen and not heard. You did what you were told. You didn't ask questions. That's it, right? Girls and kids today are just different. They're more savvy. They're more worldly. They have questions, and you want them to be able to, like I said, stand on their own feet and think through problems and actually have a dialogue.
Absolutely.
So even though our family is not a democracy, we're very clear about that. If there is something, our girls know the rules. And they also know the consequences. Yeah. And so if there's something that they want to post, they'll say, "Hey, Mom, what do you think about this? Hey, Dad, what do you think about that?" And if I say, "No, I don't think that's a good idea. Here is why." Okay. And then sometimes the conversation goes a little bit like, or like, "I don't think you should do that." Or like, for example, a recent discussion that we had with London, my 13, almost 14-year-old, because she wanted to get TikTok, or one of them. I was like, "No, you don't need to get TikTok, but I want to use the filter, Why don't you trust me?" I'd say, it's not about not trusting you. I know who you are. It's about the world out there. That is what I'm trying to protect you from. Okay. So sometimes you just have to, we've had discussions, and at the end of the day, they know that our final decision is our final decision. We can talk about it, you can protest, but at the end of the day, once we make the final decision, if that's it, then that's it. Yeah. We're done talking about it. We're not going to mope about it. We're not going to continue. We're not going to argue about it. But we will have a dialogue about it, because I want you to understand where I'm coming from. And there have been cases where, I like my kids to make a case. I'm like, okay, well, sell me on it. Make a case. Yeah. Give me a presentation. Give me a proposal. Let me know why. Because sometimes I think as parents we can misinterpret what they're trying to do because we're coloring it based on our experiences.
Gotcha.
And so if you can come to me and you can say, "This is why I want to do it. This is," I'm like, "Okay, well, you know what? Okay, well, let's. Okay, I can agree with that. Maybe with these particular restrictions, or so with these boundaries. But okay, we can do it." So there have been instances where they come to me and they say, "Well, this is why I want to post it," and I say no, and then I eventually say, "Okay, yes, but you have to make this tweak." Right. Yeah. So I think it's about having a dialogue, and kind of going back to that a little bit. Because of course we're talking about social media, especially when it comes to sports, when it comes to girls in soccer. I think that there's definitely a place for it. Mm-hmm. The way that we have used it for our girls, especially for London, because of her aspirations of playing at the highest levels, is she has a parent-managed account. Okay, she chooses and she helps us determine what's going to get posted, and she'll write the captions, and oftentimes she'll pick out the music, but I help to manage her and guide her. That is the deal with that account. Okay. Yeah. For various reasons. It's because of because we want people to see who she is from a sports standpoint, from a personality standpoint, and that is authentic. But also, as you were saying, you also have to protect your kids from making the mistakes that can come back and haunt them later, that can hurt them now in the short term, but also long term. So we have that professional account for her. And then she also has a little spam account too, where she can be doing anything. She can be playing soccer. Oh, she should be playing soccer. She can be petting the dog. She can be, whatever she's doing. Okay.
Now, let me ask you this. Put a pin right there.
Okay.
In that situation, right, are you still monitoring who follows her?
Absolutely.
And all of that? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I see what she posts. I mean, we
Yeah.
still talk about that. But when we're dealing with her professional account, even though that's her and, she's on that and she's answering coaches and she's doing those things, I help her, like if there's a little bit of editing that needs to be done.
Yeah.
Or if she's trying to choose music, because I see kids out there who have accounts, whether they're parent managed or not, and they may be showing a video of them playing, but then they have music in the background that has obscene lyrics.
Yeah.
Right. And so as a person who has been in business, as a person who runs I know the importance of image. I know the importance of portraying who you are in a real way. We don't tolerate obscenity and swearing and stuff in my home. So why would you have music on there? And I think, and not that it's necessarily a judgment call, but I think it's important for people to have a true assessment of who you are online at all times.
I remember one time a coach of mine told us, like early on in my journey, where if you don't do it, there's no harm, right? But if you do, there can always be the risk of it damaging you.
Right.
So regardless of how you adhere, it's the safer play to just not do it.
Right. Yeah.
But go ahead. Go ahead.
And I think it's important when we're talking about whether or not you should allow your child to have a social media account for the purposes of advancing their career in soccer. I think it's important to start with the end, start with the goal. What is the goal of this account? What are we hoping to accomplish by having it? That's where we started, okay? Because, of course, the whole reason behind Project Further and my family deciding to launch it, including my kids. My kids were a big part of that, because they said, Mom, wouldn't it be nice if one day kids didn't have to leave the state to do all this? And I said, it'd be awesome. And so that's kind of what led us to move, to develop it. But the idea behind Project Further was to help increase awareness. Initially, it was increase awareness of our daughter, and then eventually led to let's increase awareness for all girls in youth soccer from places like this who want to go further. But we said, well, how can we do that? How can we get out of this small market and get sort of in the eyesight of people who can offer more opportunities, and we can make them aware of our girl and what she's doing and the fact that she has an excellent work ethic and she has a lot of potential and she loves the game and we're doing all these things. Well, let's get on social. Okay. So that's what we want people to see, who she is and what she's doing and her ability and her potential and all that. So that was the end goal. Now, how do we get that? How do we accomplish that? Well, we need to post. We need to show what she's doing from a skill standpoint. We need to show her working hard when she's training, even on off days, even in the rain. We need to let them see her personality, right?
Yep.
She's fun and she's a hard worker and she's respectful. So let's show aspects of that. Let's post things that sort of show her philosophy.
Yeah.
So when she'll write captions, it's showing who she is, her philosophy, her love of the game, the fact that she'll, So that's, I think, what you have to focus on when you're deciding, first of all, do I allow my child to have an account? What do you hope to gain from it? Okay, perfect. Now, how do we get there? And also, I think it's important to consider whose eyes are you trying to catch, right? I think so many social media accounts out there now, whether they're kids or adults, they're more vanity accounts, right? They just want followers. They just want followers, and they want they want shares, and they want all these things and likes.
Clout.
They want clout. And for her, her fun account, she calls it her spam account. All her little friends are on there, and they're posting silly stuff, and they're being teenagers. Yeah. And it's fun and it's silly and all that. But then with this other account, it's still fun, but she isn't going for random.
She's on the clock.
She's on the clock, and she's not going for random followers.
Results.
She has coaches who follow her. She has college coaches who follow her. D1, D2, NAIA, junior college, they follow her, and they'll like her stuff, And so there's some that follow her that she's messaged. She'll send direct messages to if they follow her back. Even if they can't respond. So there's a purpose getting in front of those people, letting them watch her grow up, letting them watch her develop, letting them know where she is, what all the things that she's doing. She's working really hard to become that player. And so ideally, when the time comes and she is able to have a conversation with some of those coaches, they'll already know who she is. Okay.
Now let's pivot right here because we're moving through this episode, and I love what we're discussing here. You said coaches are watching. And for us to be a resource and a tool, I want to make sure like we're ironing out these tips and these practices that parents can follow.
Right.
What should coaches be seeing on social that you've seen has yielded the best results? What should parents be posting with their kids? We've established the benefit of moderating and being involved of the managerial side. But let's talk about what the other side is seeing.
Okay. So the first thing that we did, and I'm going to, like you said, we're going to walk through the process here, right, instead of jumping to the end. So because this is, I've been very open about the fact that this is all new territory for me and my family, right? I'm not big on social media. I kind of get on it every now and then, mostly for business things. So it was a new process. So the first thing I said, just like other things we talked about with Project Further, is where are we trying to go? Let me see kids who are doing what we're hoping to do. The girls that are on the U.S. Youth National Team, or they're in the pool, or they got invitations, the girls who are playing the highest level of soccer in big cities, those girls, the girls who post, hey, I just, I want to announce that I just, committed, got a verbal, I just verbally committed to this D1 school, whatever. Yeah. Okay. We want to get to where they are. So let me follow those girls. Let me follow them. Let me follow those teams, because clearly those are high level teams. If you're a very high level team and you have lots of kids who are getting invitations to the U.S. Youth National Team camps and who are going to the biggest, best schools, let me follow those teams. Let me see what they're doing. Let me see what they're posting. Let me see the types of things, the type of content. Let me look at that. So that was the first thing that London and I did. Is we said, well, okay, let's look at some of these older girls. Let's see what they're doing. Okay, we see what they're doing. We see the types of videos they're doing. We see the types of editing. Now let's start doing some of that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we initially did. And that is also, that and research and some of the groups that I'm in has helped us to figure out the types of videos that we need to be putting out there to attract the attention of coaches and people, that the types of followers that we want. Okay, the other thing is understanding that when you have a very busy coach, you have a few seconds to catch their attention. So you want to post something that is provocative, something that, whether it's, a combination of skills or moves or speed of play, something that is a skill that is important when it comes to playing at the highest level. Something where they're going to be like, oh, well, let me watch this for a second and see what this kid is about. And so you want to do that as well, but you want to really get that sort of that grab their attention in the first couple of seconds, so that they don't have to watch the whole video. Okay, so those are some of the things that we learned along the way. You don't want to do a super long video, not if you're trying to capture the attention of a coach specifically. Now there's some, if you look at London's account, there's some really, really brief videos showing either her in a game, actual game scenarios, so they can see her moves, her technical ability, but also her decision-making ability. Those are things that we've talked about, soccer IQ, things that are important. We want to make sure that her profile really shows who she is. You want to put all the important stuff. This is her age. This is her height, her weight. This is where she plays. She's playing for this level, right?
Yeah.
That type of thing. So they can kind of glance at it. Okay, boom, this is a girl who's already playing high-level soccer. Let me see if that correlates to what I'm seeing here on the screen during the game. And then there are other times that you can see, like, okay, she's working. She's not just doing games. You see she's working. You see she's traveling. So they can get an idea about how invested she is in the process. And also as a family, how invested we are in the process. So those are all things that we know are important to coaches, okay, across the board, no matter your sport. You want a child who is obviously, or a player who is skilled, who is committed, who is coachable, right? And so those are the things that we're trying to portray in the videos to form an overall picture of who she is, not just her skill. Because you can have a child or a player who's very skilled and you can't coach them.
Yeah.
They know everything. Right? Or they're disrespectful to their parents. Like, who wants to coach that? So we show all aspects of that because we know that that is what coaches are looking for. And it's not like we're manufacturing it. Some coaches may be looking for different things. And, some coaches aren't looking for wingers. They aren't looking for strikers. So if we're showing videos of her shooting, her crossing the ball, that's what wingers and strikers do. If you're a coach and that's not what you're looking for, then you're probably going to swipe. And that's okay. We just want to show you what she does and how good she is with it and who she is, okay?
I love that. And I think those are great tips because, for someone coming into content that doesn't have a background in it, I think these are very great, clear steps to take. Like focusing on their skill set, right? Their personality. How they interact as a kid, because most of these players are going to be under collegiate age anyway. And I think the more you can do that consistently in ways that are fun, exciting. You and I talked about it, and I'm not going to give our strategy all the way away, but there are things that go into, like, what are some of their traditions and routines? Like, these are things that people like to see, especially as they develop.
Right.
You shared a clip of London with me, and I thought it was like on fast forward. And you were like, no, she's really that quick. And I'm like, there's no way. She is running this, like, she just can run laps around these players. And her ball control is amazing. But like those things like that, like if I was a coach, instantly I'm like, oh, she's got power, speed, and finesse.
Right.
Let me follow this trajectory and see where it goes from there.
Right.
Now, I don't know if this is something we get into today because we really are just gearing you guys on how social media can play a role and does play a role in, like, how to start implementing this into your kids' life and into their journey. But maybe we'll get into another episode where we discuss, once you've established the pipeline of content.
Right.
The doors that open afterwards. Because you guys are seeing that.
Right.
But all opportunities are not the right opportunities.
Very true.
And we're going to talk about that in an upcoming episode. But I want to always leave. You can recap some of the things you said today, but I like to get 3 tips for parents on how to implement social in a great way for their student athlete.
Okay. I think the first tip is start at the end. Think about what it is you hope to accomplish. What are your child's goals? If their goal is to play soccer in college, for example, find out what the kids who are doing that, the kids who have accomplished that, what are they doing? What are they posting? How are they posting? And sort of take an inventory, because you can get a mishmash of things out there. So take an inventory of that. So start at the end. Figure out where you want to go with this. That's the first tip. The second tip is, when you decide what to post, it needs to be provocative and eye-catching. It needs to be quick, very brief, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, I think that's important because sometimes on social media you see kids who are just pristine all the time. Every time they shoot, they make the goal. Every time they make the pass, it's perfect.
Yeah.
What's also important to coaches is to see how they react when they make a mistake. I posted videos of London to where she made a pass and it got intercepted. And then what did she do? Did she quit? Did she drop her shoulders? No, she went after it and she did a slide tackle and she regained possession, or she
Wow.
got the ball back from that person, that other player, and so that it could help her team regain possession. So it's important to see that. Okay, you don't want, it doesn't have to be perfect. This isn't a fallacy. This is what I like to call a body of work that you're creating. So that, like you alluded to, when when coaches are watching this timeline, they can see a progression. Like London is 8th grade.
Yeah.
So the player that she is now, God willing, is not going to be the player she is when she's a senior.
Right.
Right. So it's important for coaches to see that progression. Coaches can't even talk to her. Well, the high level, D1, D2, they can't even talk to her right now, but they still follow her because they hopefully see that she has something, but also she works hard and she's a great kid and her family's committed. So those things are important, painting an overall picture. So think about the body of work that you hope to create, not just a video here just to say you're posting something. I think that in social media, a lot of the time, that's what, it's like you just want content out there, just content, right? You just want to flood the web with content.
Yeah.
Quality is more important to me than quantity. The same thing when it comes to followers, okay? Quality instead of quantity.
I like that. And I want to say something that I've heard you mention before. And you just made a great tip about, D1 coaches can't have contact with these student athletes. So should we be sending videos to coaches? And if so, what is that, real briefly, what is that boundary before it becomes something that will get you in trouble or something that will, keep you safe?
Right. And so, I think that you should. If you're on social media and a coach follows you, then you can message them.
Yeah.
Okay. It's not a problem unless they initiate contact with you.
Got you.
Okay. So there are coaches of all levels who follow London. And so we'll send them videos because we want to make sure they saw it on our page. So I'm going to send it to you directly because I'm trying to initiate contact and start to build a relationship with those coaches. Let them know that I'm interested enough in your program to specifically send you what I did. Okay. And it may go something like, hey, coach, I was in Texas at a showcase, at a GA showcase this past weekend. Here's what happened. And it may be 10 seconds. And say, hey, good luck with your match against whatever university next week.
Yeah.
Okay. So that lets them know that you're invested, you're really interested in the program. You're not just sort of sending it sort of a spam message to that coach. But and you'll have, I've had D1 coaches who will like the message or who will thumbs up the message. I've had coaches who can contact, who have, every time she sends a message, they'll have a whole discussion with her.
Yeah.
Hey, London, we really love that. This in particular, I like the way you did that. And, so many players are afraid to take on defenders, but you did this and you did that. That's amazing. And sort of getting off topic a little bit, but we've even had a coach who I think didn't quite realize how young she was. And so it was perfectly fine for them to talk because I think it was an NAIA coach. Perfectly fine for them to talk, but he actually invited her. He's like, hey, this season, I'd love to have you and your family come out and your family and you can sit in the pregame meeting with the team. You can walk out of the tunnel with the team, sit on the bench during the game with the team during the match, and we can take you on a tour of the school. And we're like, that's amazing. And then later on, he's like, oh, I didn't realize you were I didn't realize you were 8th grade, but hey, definitely keep me posted, keep sending me stuff.
Yeah.
But that's a person who every time London has sent him stuff has come back with good information or good feedback. So I think it's never too early to initiate that contact with coaches. And we'll talk about that. We can talk about that a little bit more in a second too. Yeah,
right. We can't give y'all everything.
Okay, right.
Y'all need to thank me because I just gave y'all a bonus tip.
Right, as an aside, right?
Yes.
And so I still got to come up with my third tip.
I think that was it.
That was it? Okay,
yes,
well, that can be it. Yeah.
You know,
absolutely.
I think, the practicality of that is just like really just solid because these are things that are really going to position them into a pathway to success.
Right.
So,
and I also want to make another quick point too, if I can.
You got 30 seconds.
Okay. Monitor the content that is out there, even if you have an older teenager. As a person, as a professional person, not in soccer, but just a professional person, image is everything.
Yeah.
Image is everything. And it can be trendy. A song can be trendy. An artist can be trendy, but there's lots of other good music out there. There's nothing that I cringe worse about than when I see a talented player who has music where they're swearing or they're saying things that are inappropriate. It's not necessary.
Yeah.
And to me, it is a complete turnoff. But once again, you have to understand what you're hoping to accomplish.
Yeah.
If you just want to be trendy and you want to put stuff out there because all the teenagers are doing it and, oh, yeah, I happen to play soccer, then that's very different from being intentional. There's that word again, being intentional about what you're trying to build and what you're trying to accomplish. If you're trying to create something that no matter what phase of life you can go back to and say, oh, look, and no matter who the person is that you're showing it to, you don't have to worry about being offensive. You don't have to worry about, being, turning somebody off. Then choose music that is appropriate.
Yeah.
Not with the swearing, not with the, the inappropriate content. There is nothing worse, especially, and I see young teenagers, sometimes children, who will post stuff that is completely, they shouldn't even know the song.
Yeah.
They shouldn't even be listening to it. Because to me, it's a distraction. And if you have a child and a family who is so invested in helping their daughter go further, you don't want any distractions. You don't want anything taken away from their ability and their skill. Because at the end of the day, the background music is background.
Yeah.
It should not be the focus of the video. It's just something that kind of helps get you excited when you're watching it.
Yeah.
But you have to keep in mind the child has to be the focus. So just be conscientious about that, I think. I think it's just, I can't overstate that enough. I mean, it's just important, I think.
I'll say this as we wrap. There's two, and this may be another episode as well. There's a difference between warming up to brands versus like coaches or clients, right? Because what schools and coaches want is not flair.
Right.
They want performance and skill set.
And discipline.
Brands will like whatever sells a product. So if you are using the bad music or you're doing the images stuff that's really edgy, you could get more brand deals. But that doesn't mean people are going to want to coach you.
Right.
But we're going to talk about that in another episode.
Right. Yeah. And I think that that's an important distinction. I know I got like 2 seconds now, right? I think that's an important distinction because I do think in this social media age, kids get caught up in branding, in the brand. They want to be the next rock star. Well, you're not going to be the next Ronaldo, Neymar, Messi. You're not going to be the next, Kevin Sullivan if you don't have the skills. If you don't have the skills.
Yeah.
So you can be edgy and you can be flashy and you can have the, all the gear and you can be fly or whatever the kids are saying right now. They don't say that anymore.
They got drip.
They got drip, right? You can have all the drip.
Yeah.
But if you don't have the skills, then it's going nowhere, right?
Absolutely.
So start with, and that's why we always talk about development. Focus on what's going to get you the skills and the development so you can become the best player that you can be. And then after that, then you'll have options in terms of drip and in terms of brand, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, there you go.
And listen, we are not trying to take all the fun out of the journey. We just want you to be going further.
Further, always further.
Yeah, so since that's the case, go ahead and take us out, Doc.
All right. As always, keep pushing, keep striving, always, always further. We'll see you next time.